Welcome to my channel. It is often said that Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, but this is not entirely true. While she was indeed the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom, there were two other people who held the title of pharaoh after her, one of whom was a child, and the other a woman who never really wanted to be in charge. So why is Cleopatra always remembered as the last pharaoh, and what happened to these two obscure rulers? Let's find out. Cleopatra VII, Queen of the Nile, most likely suffers from a bit of a PR problem. You see, when most people think about ancient Egypt, they think about pyramids, mummies, sphinxes and, of course, Cleopatra. The Great Sphinx, with its famous quote, "I came, I saw, he conquered," has made it into popular culture. And we all know about her affair with Roman general Mark Antony and their doomed romance. With a mother like Titi, who was considered a villain by many Egyptians, and a series of siblings who fought each other tooth and nail to gain power, Cleopatra seemed destined for greatness. She learned to speak several languages, including Egyptian, and played up her looks by portraying herself as the new Isis, the Egyptian goddess of magic and healing. Her intelligence, charm, and wit also helped her secure alliances with powerful Romans such as Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, making her one of the most famous women of the ancient world. But Cleopatra's story did end when she took her own life in 30 BC at the age of 39. In fact, her legacy lived on for years through her children and her children's children. After her death, her son Caesar became the pharaoh of Egypt at just 14 years old. He ruled alongside his grandmother, Queen Mother, and tried to continue his mother's legacy by promoting trade with Rome. But he would only reign for 3 years until Octavian, later known as Augustus, defeated his grandmother and annexed Egypt into the Roman Empire. Caesar was killed or perhaps allowed to live out the remainder of his days under a false identity. But either way, his death marked the official end of the Ptolemaic Dynasty, which had ruled Egypt since 305 BC. It also marked the end of the ancient Egyptian civilization as Rome effectively made Alexandria, the capital of Egypt, a province of their empire. So why is Cleopatra still considered the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt? Well, it comes down to the meaning of the word pharaoh. Pharaoh wasn't just a title, but a combination of the Egyptian words for great house. It referred to the dwelling place of the royal family and was used by the Egyptians to refer to their kings and queens. Long before the Greeks arrived, and even after Alexander the Great conquered Egypt in 332 BC. The Ptolemies knew this and used it to their advantage. They identified themselves as the new pharaohs of Egypt in order to appear more godlike to their subjects. So technically, anyone who sat on the throne of the Egyptian royal family could be considered a pharaoh. This means that Cleopatra's children, Caesar and Cleopatra Selene, were also pharaohs of ancient Egypt. And because Caesar was killed while still a teenager, Cleopatra Selene became the new pharaoh at around 18 years old. While Caesar attempted to maintain peaceful relations with Rome, his sister Cleopatra Selene preferred to play the two great powers against each other in order to keep her country safe. Unfortunately for her, her schemes failed and she was captured by Octavian. He brought her to Rome where she spent the rest of her days, first as a prisoner and then as a respected member of Roman society. She died around 12 AD, a full 168 years after Cleopatra the Great. Throughout history, there have been many women who have been forced to share the throne with male rulers. Sometimes these women have been the queen's mother or sister, as was the case with Nefertiti, and sometimes they have been wives. But rarely did any of them rule alone. The female members of the royal family usually had to share power with a male figure, even if that male figure was just a baby. Such was the case with Cleopatra Selene, who became co-regent with her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII. There is little doubt that Cleopatra Selene would have preferred to rule alone. Not only was she older and smarter than her brother, but she was also his aunt. Their father, Ptolemy XII, had actually married their paternal grandmother, Cleopatra Thea, who had previously been married to Ptolemy VIII. Cleopatra Selene and Ptolemy XIII were therefore half-siblings, which made Cleopatra Selene both his aunt and stepmother. Since it was customary for an Egyptian king to marry one of his sisters, it makes sense that Cleopatra Selene would have preferred to rule alone, especially considering that she had already successfully ruled as regent while her father was away, fighting the Nabateans. And fortunately for her, it was not customary for a woman to rule alone. So despite being the senior member of the royal family, Cleopatra Selene had to share power with her young nephew. The two siblings ruled together for 8 years, during which time they issued joint coins, built temples, and participated in religious festivals together. There is some evidence that Cleopatra Selene may have been the dominant partner in the relationship, but this is largely speculation on the part of historians. What we do know is that the two siblings eventually grew tired of sharing power and began plotting against one another. In 28 BC, Cleopatra Selene attempted to poison her brother, but he survived. In retaliation, Ptolemy XIII framed her for trying to kill him and had her imprisoned. A few days later, she was dead, having taken her own life rather than submit to her brother. Ptolemy XIII would only rule for another year before he met his demise. He was killed in a riot in Alexandria, which led to the city's sack and annexation of Egypt into the Roman Empire by Octavian. Thus ended the last pharaonic dynasty of ancient Egypt. The Ptolemies may not have been native Egyptians, but they certainly understood the importance of playing into the local culture. By identifying themselves as the new pharaohs, they gave the common people a sense of continuity. After all, the country had been ruled by pharaohs for nearly 3,000 years. The idea of replacing the pharaohs with a Greek king just didn't sit well with the population. So instead, the Ptolemies identified themselves as the embodiment of the Egyptian kings of old. And for the most part, the people accepted them. However, while the Ptolemies were happy to identify themselves as pharaohs, they weren't so keen on letting ordinary Egyptians call themselves pharaohs too. In fact, the Ptolemies went to great lengths to suppress the use of the term pharaoh. They destroyed stelairds bearing the name pharaoh and replaced it with the Greek word basileos. They also banned the use of the term pharaoh in everyday speech and punished those who used it. This was clearly a deliberate attempt to erase the term pharaoh from Egyptian society. And it seems to have worked. When the Romans arrived, they too identified the Egyptian rulers as kings rather than pharaohs. And it wasn't until centuries later that the term pharaoh was revived. So, who exactly was the last pharaoh of Egypt? Well, that depends on your definition of the term pharaoh. If you define pharaoh as the title given to the rulers of the Egyptian royal family, then Cleopatra Selene was the last pharaoh. If you define pharaoh as the supreme leader of ancient Egypt, then it's a bit more complicated. Cleopatra the Great was certainly the last active ruler of ancient Egypt, but her son Caesar continued to rule as pharaoh after her death, albeit under the control of Rome. He was followed by his sister Cleopatra Selene, who also ruled as pharaoh until her death in 28 BC. Both of these individuals are largely forgotten today, but they played an important role in the final days of ancient Egypt. Without their efforts, the Romans may have annexed Egypt much sooner. As for Cleopatra the Great, she remains one of the most famous women in history. But as we've seen, her legacy is somewhat tarnished by the actions of her children and the Roman occupation of Egypt. So what do you think? Was Cleopatra the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, or was someone else more deserving of that title? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new. Today, we will talk about how Cleopatra controlled Rome. Before we get into this video, please hit that like button so that you can get more videos like this one. Thank you. And now let's get back to the video. Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, is often remembered as a captivating figure whose influence extended far beyond her kingdom's borders. While her romantic entanglements with Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony are prominent in historical accounts, it is crucial to recognize that Cleopatra's appeal to Roman elites went beyond her allure as an exotic queen. Instead, Cleopatra understood the intricacies of Roman power dynamics and skillfully leveraged her personal magnetism to secure vital alliances that served her kingdom's interests. By forging these partnerships, Cleopatra navigated the complexities of Roman politics, ensuring the support of influential leaders who could protect and advance her agenda on the Roman stage. Cleopatra's strategy to control Rome was based on forming powerful alliances with the right people. Her first target was Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome at the time. When Cleopatra came to power, Egypt was caught in a web of civil wars that threatened its independence. Her father, Ptolemy XII, had left the kingdom unstable and divided, with her younger sister, Arsinoe IV, vying for control. Seeking to secure her throne, Cleopatra reached out to Rome, aligning herself with Julius Caesar, who was engaged in a civil war against Pompey. Cleopatra's decision to side with Caesar was not merely a choice of sides in a conflict, but a calculated move to secure her kingdom's future. As Caesar's forces gained the upper hand, Cleopatra positioned herself as a valuable ally, offering him not only her own support, but also access to vital resources that Egypt could provide. This alliance proved pivotal as Caesar's victory over Pompey was secured in part by Egyptian assistance. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra was able to solidify her position on the throne, establishing her authority over Egypt and ensuring its independence amidst the turmoil of the Roman civil war. Theirs was a partnership born out of necessity and self-interest, each seeking to leverage the other's strengths to achieve their own ends. However, their relationship soon evolved into something more complex, a blend of romance and politics that further intertwined their fates. The union produced Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, whom Caesar acknowledged as his legitimate heir. This acknowledgement carried significant weight, linking Cleopatra's dynasty directly to the most powerful political entity in the Mediterranean and setting the stage for her son's potential claim to power in both Egypt and Rome. Thus, Cleopatra's alliance with Julius Caesar proved instrumental in securing her throne and shaping the future of her dynasty. It was a testament to her political acumen, her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics and form alliances that transcended mere diplomacy. Yet this was just the beginning. As Caesar's star shone brightly in the Roman sky, his life was cut short by a conspiracy that shook the foundations of the Roman world. With Caesar's demise, a power vacuum emerged, leaving Cleopatra's fate hanging in the balance. Amidst this uncertainty, she turned her attention to Mark Antony, a rising star in Roman politics who controlled the eastern territories of the Roman Republic. Recognizing Antony's growing influence and potential, Cleopatra saw an opportunity to secure her kingdom's future. Despite the tumultuous political climate, she embarked on a journey to meet him, a journey fraught with danger and intrigue. Cleopatra's decision to align herself with Mark Antony was a continuation of her strategy to secure her kingdom's interests through strategic alliances. Antony, who held considerable power and influence over the eastern provinces of Rome, became the focus of her attention following Caesar's assassination. Understanding the shifting dynamics of Roman power, Cleopatra saw in Antony a leader with whom she could form a beneficial partnership. Her journey to meet him was not merely a romantic pursuit, but a carefully planned diplomatic mission aimed at forging an alliance that would safeguard Egypt's independence and advance her kingdom's interests. Upon meeting Antony, Cleopatra dazzled him with her charm and intellect, weaving a spell that captivated the Roman leader. This encounter was a turning point. Their partnership marked a significant shift in Cleopatra's strategy, expanding her sphere of influence beyond her immediate territorial concerns. Together, they formed a formidable alliance that challenged Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, who was consolidating power in the West. Their partnership proved fruitful. With Antony's support, Cleopatra was able to expand her influence, restoring Egyptian control over territories lost to Rome and enhancing her overall power. Cleopatra's appeal to Antony went beyond her status as a foreign queen. It was rooted in her ability to offer him strategic advantages, cultural compatibility, and intellectual stimulation. Their partnership was a testament to the power of diplomacy and the value of cultural exchange in forging alliances. Moreover, Cleopatra's influence over Antony played a pivotal role in shaping his policies, particularly regarding the eastern provinces. She acted as a cultural ambassador, introducing Antony to Egyptian customs, arts, and literature, fostering a deeper appreciation for her kingdom's rich heritage. This cultural diplomacy contributed to the deepening of their relationship and the expansion of Egypt's influence in the Eastern Mediterranean. It also helped to humanize Cleopatra in the eyes of the Roman elite, presenting her not just as a symbol of exotic allure, but as a cultured and sophisticated ruler. However, their alliance was not without challenges. Octavian, driven by his own ambitions and a desire for total control, actively worked to undermine Cleopatra and Antony. As tensions escalated, Cleopatra's resourcefulness and determination to protect her kingdom became evident. She utilized her vast network of spies and informants, ensuring that she was well informed about the developing situation. By staying ahead of her rivals, Cleopatra was able to anticipate threats and take proactive measures to safeguard her interests. She maintained a strong military presence along Egypt's borders, deterring any potential aggression. Furthermore, Cleopatra continued to cultivate alliances with other kingdoms and factions, seeking support to counter Octavian's growing power. She understood the importance of creating a united front to protect her kingdom's independence. Cleopatra also employed a strategy of divide and conquer, aiming to exploit any internal divisions within her rivals' ranks. She sent lavish gifts and diplomatic missions to key figures in Octavian's camp, attempting to sow seeds of doubt or discontent. By highlighting any internal discord, she hoped to weaken Octavian's resolve and prevent a united opposition against her. Moreover, Cleopatra understood the power of propaganda and used it effectively to shape public opinion in her favor. She presented herself as a benevolent ruler, emphasizing her commitment to the welfare of her people and the prosperity of her kingdom. Through carefully crafted images and narratives, she portrayed Octavian as a ruthless and power-hungry dictator, seeking to subjugate Egypt and impose his dominance on the Mediterranean. In addition to her political and propaganda strategies, Cleopatra also took steps to bolster Egypt's economy. She understood that a prosperous kingdom was essential to maintaining stability and power. Cleopatra implemented sound fiscal policies, stabilized currency, and invested in infrastructure projects that created jobs and stimulated economic activity. By improving the lives of ordinary Egyptians, she built a base of popular support that made it difficult for Octavian to gain a foothold in the kingdom. As Octavian's forces approached, Cleopatra's determination to defend her kingdom and legacy was unwavering. She rallied her troops, prepared for battle, and refused to surrender without a fight. Cleopatra's actions during this period showcased her bravery and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Though ultimately unsuccessful in preventing the fall of her kingdom, Cleopatra's resistance earned her a measure of respect even from her adversaries. Cleopatra's story is one of ambition, intelligence, and the relentless pursuit of power in a male-dominated world. Her strategies, though sometimes controversial, were a product of her desire to secure her kingdom's future and protect it from external threats. Whether through political alliances, cultural diplomacy, or economic reform, Cleopatra left an indelible mark on the ancient world. Her story continues to fascinate and inspire all, reminding us of the complexities of power and the enduring legacy of one of history's most enigmatic queens. And this brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.